Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the Magic the Gathering Avatar The Last Airbender pre-release guide here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release or if you're looking for MTG Avatar specific information such as a rundown on new and returning mechanics, limited archetypes, and more to make sure that you are on top of your game at your LGS. So whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Avatar pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are about 6 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what's called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of the brand new cards from the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you will need to find one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running an event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, a couple on Saturday, and one on Sunday, so check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which ones you would like to attend. Be sure to note that sometimes these events do fill up fast, so you may need to pre-register to ensure you have a spot. It just depends on your store. Other times you can just walk in and register on the spot, so be sure to find out what's best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit like the one on your screen now. Now, uniquely for this set, you do have a choice of 5 different pre-release kits to choose from. Your options include Aang, representing the Air Nomads, Katara of the Southern Water Tribe, Toph, representing the Earth Kingdom, Zuko, Lord of the Fire Nation, and Zuko's corrupt sister, Princess Azula. Each of these 5 characters is associated with a color in Magic the Gathering. Aang is white, Katara is blue, Toph is green, Zuko is red, and Azula is black. In each kit, one of the 6 play boosters will be replaced with a seeded character booster that includes cards that highlight your chosen character and their associated color. Some stores will let you choose your themed kit either when you pre-register or when you pay at the store, and some might just assign you one at random. It just depends on your store, so look into it ahead of time if that's something that's important to you. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you'll be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you will have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside you will find one traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Avatar with a year stamp, and here's an example of what that card might look like using a rare from the last set, Spider-Man, 5 Avatar play boosters, 1 seeded Avatar character booster, and 1 20-sided spin down die. When it comes to the contents of your booster packs, each Avatar play booster will contain a variation of the following: 7 commons, and 4% of the time one of these 7 commons will be replaced by a borderless source material card, which act like the special guest cards in this set, of which there are 61, one scene from each of the 61 episodes of the show, some of which are visible on your screen now. 3 uncommons, and sometimes you can find 1 of 4 scene cards in these slots as well, and these are just fancy art versions of regular uncommons in the set that when put together with the other remaining scene cards create a full piece of art. 1 rare or mythic rare, and there's also a 7% chance that you will find either a field notes card, a battle pose card, scene cards, and elemental frame cards. And because this won't be the first or last time you'll hear me say a shocking amount of art treatments for cards, I've included a link in the description for you to check out all of these arts and treatments yourselves. One non-foil wildcard of any rarity, which has a 4% chance to be a common, a 74% chance to be an uncommon, and a 19% chance to be a rare or mythic. You can also find field notes, battle pose, scene, and elemental frame cards here as well, though all at less than a 1% chance. One foil card of any rarity, which has a 54% chance to be a common, a 37% chance to be an uncommon, and an 8% chance to be a rare or mythic. And once again, you can find field notes, battle pose, scene, and elemental frame cards here as well, all at a less than 1% chance. And the final slot will be a land card that has a 50% chance to be a common dual land, and a 50% chance to be a basic land of varying basic land art treatment types. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of an avatar sealed deck build, stick around until the final segment of this video, which is timestamped below, where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give you different amount of matches for the event, but usually it's a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might be able to play 4 or more, it really just depends on your store. And after you've finished your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. So what I'll do now is go over some of the notable mechanics for the set, and I'll go over the themes associated with the draftable archetypes, and just give you a general rundown of what's going on in Avatar before I do my deck build so we both have a better idea of what to look out for. This set essentially has 4 new keywords associated with it, all very flavorfully executed to how they function in the show, and these are the bending abilities of the 4 nations in Avatar. We begin with Firebending, the bending ability of the main antagonists of Aang and his friends, the Fire Nation. Firebending is a keyword that always includes a number. Whenever a creature you control with firebending attacks, you add that much red mana. Now you don't lose this mana during combat, but any of the mana you still have as combat ends will be lost. Many cards with firebending will include abilities that help you spend that mana during combat if you don't have somewhere else to put it, like the Fire Sages do here. It has firebending 1, but if you have 2 extra mana lying around, you're able to pump that 3 mana, giving it a +1/+1 counter. Hopefully these bursts of red mana can help you get ahead of your opponents before they catch up and master the elements of their own and take you down. Next up we have Airbending, because sometimes you just need to get things out of harm's way, or even out of your way. Airbend is a keyword action, and to airbend a permanent or a spell, you exile it. As long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it by paying 2 generic mana rather than paying its mana cost. This can be used to protect your own resources, perhaps to blank a removal spell or to rebuy an enters trigger later, or you can airbend your opponent's permanents to get them out of the way for now. Remember that they can still recast their thing later for 2 generic mana, but timing rules still apply when they do. Next up we have Waterbending. Waterbend is a cost and always includes an amount of mana that must be paid somehow. Waterbend costs can appear as an additional cost to cast a spell, as part of an ability's activation cost, or anywhere else you might be asked to pay mana. To pay a waterbend cost, you can always just pay the requested mana. However, for each generic mana in that cost, you can tap an untapped artifact or creature you control rather than pay that mana. It's kind of like a combination of Convoke and Improvise for some spells and abilities. For example, to activate North Pole Patrol's last ability, you can simply tap North Pole Patrol and pay 3 generic mana. You could also tap it alongside another artifact or creature and pay 2 mana, and you could even tap it and 3 other artifacts and or creatures to pay no mana at all. Lastly, we have Earthbending. Earthbend is another keyword action that includes a number. When you Earthbend, choose target land you control. As the Earthbend ability resolves, that land becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land, then you put +1/+1 counters on it equal to the Earthbend number. When an Earthbended land dies or is exiled, it returns to the battlefield tapped under your control. It won't be a creature when it comes back, but you can always earthbend it again later. Also, as this might come up in conjunction with airbending, typically airbent land cards cannot be cast later, as the rules text of airbending says cast, not play. They simply remain in exile. However, because of the rules text of earthbending saying that if your earthbended land dies or is exiled, you get to return it to the battlefield tapped, this overrides the airbending effect, and the earthbended land would in fact return back to the battlefield tapped as opposed to being exiled permanently. One other mechanics note for this set is that you will see various lesson cards throughout this set. Lessons originally showed up back in Strixhaven in conjunction with the learn mechanic, which allowed you to fetch the lessons out of your sideboard when you learned. The learn mechanic, however, will not be present in the Avatar set, but there will be various cards that synergize with you casting lessons or having lessons in your graveyard. Also, they're just very flavorful for the set. So if you're looking for the learn lesson synergy that existed with Strixhaven a few years ago, you'll have to wait a few more months. That does it for the most notable mechanics, so let's check out the draftable archetypes that Avatar will feature, each of which are visible on your screen now. White-blue is an archetype that cares about having flying creatures. Take to the skies with Aang and his friends to soar like an airbender as you collect flyers to go over the top of your opponent's defenses. We see blue-white flyers a lot in Limited, and if the creatures are priced to move, the deck can be a potent threat. Blue-black is a deck that cares about drawing 2 cards in a single turn. This has become one of Wizards' favorite pet themes here in the past couple of years, usually to varying degrees of success. This deck is looking to find ways to draw multiple cards in a turn by using clues and card effects to trigger your reward cards and win the long game. Black-red is an aggressive deck that is looking to take advantage of the firebending keyword to turn on extra effects. If you can pair instant speed effects and abilities with the additional mana that your firebending cards will provide you with, you will be set up well to run over your opponent before they get their defenses established. The red-green deck is looking to take advantage of the earthbending keyword to animate its abundance of lands into large creatures that rack up bonuses to help you win the Rumble. Look to get extra lands on the battlefield and then animate them using earthbending abilities to get ahead of your opponent in both land and creature count. Green-white is a typal archetype that brings back an old classic, and that is the ally creature type mattering. Play your allies and generate tokens to go wide and hit your opponent from all sides. Look for synergies between your ally cards that will snowball into effects that are difficult for your opponent to overcome. White-black gets the sacrifice theme this time around, an archetype beloved by many. Look to play smaller creatures and generate clues, and then gain the upper hand when you sacrifice them for value. You want to find both creatures you're willing to sacrifice, outlets to sacrifice them, and the rewards for doing so. Blue-red is the deck that looks to teach both you and your opponent the most in the form of lessons. Play your creatures that care about casting non-creature spells, load your deck up with spells and lessons, and reap the benefits of your spell-slinging synergies from both the stack and from your graveyard. Black-green gets the counters theme this time around, likely to synergize the most with the earthbending ability. Building your army to be larger and more powerful will help you overpower your enemies with sheer power and toughness alone. Look for counter providers and rewards for accruing counters on your creatures, past just power and toughness boosts though. Red-white gets everyone's favorite classic red-white archetype, good old red-white aggro. There's really not much to this one. We all know it as a tried and true red-white deck. Just look to get out as fast as you can and underneath your opponent's defenses and lead the rebellion with an army of allies and tokens that you can enhance for devastating attacks. Green-blue looks to take advantage of both ramp and lesson spells. Look to ramp and draw cards to play big creatures and spells while also accruing lesson spells for various effects and synergies. You'll want to make sure that you can ramp fast enough and have powerful enough top end to survive against the allies and firebending foes. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is building your deck. But good news, I will now go through an entire Avatar sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you want to be looking out for in your pool of cards and how to maximize your chance of having a competitive deck for the event. You can also catch a few videos later this week showing a few drafts and maybe even a sealed run of the Avatar set when I participate in the streamer event this upcoming Wednesday. So if you're into some early access content, Daily Draft is the place to find it. Okay, welcome to the deck building portion of this video here today. And I'm excited for this one where I got left out of Final Fantasy as I had really never played any of those games. I have seen the entire Avatar series and I actually just binged it in the last couple weeks here to kind of get ready for this and hopefully be able to be in on the hype with you all. So hopefully my pronunciations will be better today and I will understand some of the references to help you out a little bit as well. Also, before I get started, want to let you know what I'm kind of looking at and how I'm able to see what I'm able to see here right now. On my left or right hand side, you can see a link right now to draftsim.com. It's a great website where you can either do some practice drafts or against bots or even build sealed deck pools like the one you see on your screen right now. I went ahead and generated the pool through DraftSim, and then I exported it and brought it into the interface you see on your screen right now, sealeddeck.tech, which is a link on my side as well right now. So you can go ahead and do both of those things, get yourself some practice sealed pools to get ready for the weekend and make sure you can get some practice. You can also check out my early access videos like I mentioned earlier, which will hopefully be dropping in the next couple days, depending on when you see this. So we're going to dive into this pool and we're going to go over what I usually look for when building a pool for a pre-release. First thing you got to do, you got to sort by rarity. You got to know what your best cards are and see if you can fit them into your deck. Looks like, oh, also one thing I forgot to mention, the seeded character booster, I don't think is able to be replicated prior to the event. We don't actually know what goes in that or how it's going to be seeded. So this is just 6 play boosters, but know that whichever character you pick, you might end up with more or less of these colors of cards or something. So just know that going in. If we look at our rares, we've got a black, red card here. Ozai, the self-proclaimed Phoenix King. 6 mana, trample, firebending 4, haste. If you would lose unspent mana, it becomes red. Flying indestructible. Oh my goodness, that card is absolutely insane. I hadn't read that before, but it makes sense. He's the final big bad guy of the show here. What other red and black cards? We have Zuko as well. The Conflicted Zuko from the middle of the series. So 2 mana, 2/3. Beginning of your first main, choose one that hasn't been chosen. You lose 2 life, draw a card, put a counter, add a red, and then you can exile him and return him tapped under an opponent's control, interestingly. Probably still pretty good though, especially if we have a couple sacrifice outlets. We've got Redirect Lightning here. This is like, what is this, like Deflecting SWAT in Commander? I'm not even exactly sure. I don't play that card too much in Commander here. Ran and Shaw. So these are the 2 dragons that grant Zuko and Aang their firebending abilities there in Season 3. 5 mana, 4/4 flying, firebending 2 when it enters if you cast them. And there are 3 or more dragon and or lesson cards in your graveyard. Make a copy of it, except it's not legendary and it has like double fire breathing, which makes sense because there's 2 dragons. That's pretty crazy. Firebending Student, 2 mana, 1/2 prowess, firebending X, where X is this creature's power. That's just generically good as well. Katara is a 3-color card. If we could build around allies, probably pretty good, but it doesn't really go with the rest of what we have here. This version of Aang is pretty busted and makes sense because the backside is the first time he entered the Avatar state in the show to close out Season 1. So we got 3 mana, 2/3 flash flying, enters, you get to airbend a thing, and you can waterbend to transform him into a very powerful anthem effect for your team. Big reach trampler. Pretty good as well. Avatar Destiny. I don't even know what this one does. 4 mana enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each creature in your graveyard and is an avatar. And then when it dies, mill cards equal to its power. Return this card to its owner's hand and up to 1 creature milled this way to the battlefield under your control. That's a really good aura. Boiling Rock Rioter. Okay, 3 mana, 3/3 firebending 1, and synergy with allies, which is kind of interesting in black because black is not the color that really synergizes with allies much in this set. And there's also Suki, which is pretty good. Other creatures get +1/+0, and then can give you allies when things leave the battlefield. So we have kind of like two decks. We have like a black-red deck, and then like a Bant ally deck, kind of. And that's where our rares are leading. So let's kind of like build out a black-red deck with what we have and see what looks good here so far. This is kind of like a sacrifice card. It's fine. Corrupt Court Official, nice reprint from New Capenna. We got Epic Downfall and Heartless Act, good removal there. Sacrifice a creature, create a clue, activate only during your turn. Okay, that's pretty good with the Zuko, because we want to find sack outlets for the Zuko. This could be another thing you could sacrifice if we find enough outlets. Sold Out is one of the better common removal spells in the set. 6 mana, 6/6, Death Touch. When it enters, make a food. Swamp Cycling, those are always fine. Okay, enchant creature gets -5, -3 for 3 mana. That's pretty good as well, and this is probably fine. Fire Nation Cadets, Firebending as long as there are lessons. Also, look how many lessons we ended up with in this pool. I don't know if this is going to be normal, but this is kind of insane. There are a ton of lessons here. And I see 3 combustion techniques. So it deals damage equal to 2 plus the number of lesson cards in your graveyard. In an instant? I mean, that's kind of insane. Iroh's Demonstration. 4 damage to a creature or 1 to each as a sorcery. That's also pretty good. This is more of an aggressive lesson here. Target opponent reveals their hand, choose a non-land permanent, discards it, or Earthbend 2. Very flavorful. The Daili are kind of the infiltrators of the Earth Kingdom that stage a coup against the Earth King. And you can either Earthbend with this black card or kind of like hand disrupt them, which is kind of a very flavorful card there. Azula Always Lies. Yes, she does. 2 mana, -1/-1. Put a counter on a creature. That's probably fine as well. Gosh, just look how many. That's already 5 lessons for the techniques there. The Wrestlers could be played in this deck because it's a hybrid card. What is this one? Enters, make a 1/1 ally, then attach the equipment to it. Okay, so, I mean, we've already got 20 cards in here. There's going to have to be cuts for this black-red deck. So what? Oh, and a Cruel Administrator? I didn't even see that the first time. Sure. Pretending Poxbearers. 2 mana, 2/1. When it dies, make a 1/1. Sure. These could even go in there. There's a lot of red cards I haven't even put in here yet. So, in the interest of time for you all, what I usually like to do here is just show you my initial thought process. Red-black is where my mind went first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 decks here because I was also intrigued by kind of a Bant Allies deck with, there's even 2 Aang the Last Airbenders as well, which is pretty good. And maybe it was the fixing. We've got a green-white. Okay. There's a couple of lands to help us there. And an Aang's Journey. And then one of these. Okay, Sacred Lands, search for 2, put them on the battlefield. Okay, that's also kind of fixing. Okay, so I'm going to kind of make a cut here. I'm going to build 2 decks, show them both to you, and then see if I can kind of make a decision from there based on where my instincts went. So I'll see you here in 1 second. All right, after some difficult cuts, here's where I landed with a black-red deck that I think is quite good. I had to cut some kind of quite good cards, I thought, to kind of fit all this in. I mean, there's still some lessons in the sideboard. I don't think they're all great. I cut a Wrestlers and then even a removal spell because the black-red deck wants to be a bit on the aggressive side, and I think we've got a lot of removal like in the form of synergistic lessons here. We've got 5 lessons that synergize with Ran Shaw, and then I think there was at least one other card that cared about lessons. Maybe not. Not exact. Oh yeah, the techniques themselves, which is pretty good. And I had to cut War Balloon, which I think would be pretty good in this deck with a lot of firebending here. I mean, there's just some like decent, actually probably sideboard cards I think you could still fit into this. This would be 16 lands, but I would run 16 plus 2 land cyclers, which I think actually makes it fine. Got 6 cards that cost 5 or more, but these 2 land cyclers kind of add each a half a land to put it back up to 17, so I think that's probably okay. Good bit of removal, some early creatures, some kind of tough ones that they'll have to deal with as well late. This deck seems really good. And the other deck I was able to come up with is the kind of Bant Allies list with Aang and Katara in like a green-white deck. I also think this one's actually quite good as well. We have, what is this, 7 2-drops here. We have a protection spell, a little bit of fixing. We have a removal, nice removal. Kind of like a double anthem, or an anthem for our whole team, and then kind of draw cards from the allies. The Destiny I would try out as well. There's a lot of allies in here. 2 Aang the Last Airbenders. We have 2 versions of Aang in this deck. I mean, I think at this point it'd probably come down to what personal preference is. I would venture to guess that this red-black deck is probably a little bit better than the green-white splash blue deck. But if you felt, you know, better about playing this kind of deck, I don't think this is at all impossible. And this might be one of the first times I'd recommend with this pool that you could actually sleeve up both of these decks kind of separate to each other, because they don't have any colors that actually overlap. We have 3 colors here and then the other 2 colors over there. And then after game 1, or even in between your rounds, you can decide which deck you want to play. So let's say you play, you know, the Bant deck in the first round, and then you realize that it's like not great and it didn't perform as well as you wanted it to. Then you could pull out the black-red deck for the second round and then try that. And then even if you lose the first game of that round, you can go back to the Bant deck. You can go back and forth. Unless you have like a really strict LGS that requires you to just make deck lists or something, but I've never been to one of those. So this is probably where I'd land with this black-red deck. I'm not convinced that these are the perfect cuts considering what's still left on the sideline, but I think the deck's pretty good, and I'd be pretty excited with this one. Hopefully you end up with something like this weekend as well. And I think the seeded character booster will help you get a pool that looks, hopefully, a little bit closer to this than you might normally think. I would consider this to be an above average 6-play booster pool, but because of the seeded character booster, you might end up with something like this here this weekend. And if you do, boy, I think you're going to have a lot of fun. So I'm excited for this set. Again, I'll be doing early access this week. Tune back into the channel to check out some content for that. So hopefully that helps you out here, and that'll do it for the deck build portion. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to go participate in a pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one before, I highly recommend it. It's one of the absolute most fun ways to play Magic, and you're going to meet a ton of different kind of players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video and leave a comment. Let me know how it went for you. I always love hearing from everybody about how their events went, whether it's your first one or your 100th one, or really whatever it ends up being for you. It's always fun to hear from everyone as well. So thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video, and I will see you soon here at Daily Draft.